The Vorkal expeditionary vessel, Sovereign of Ash, drifted through the debris field with the careful precision of a predator examining the bones of its prey. Commander Thrax Vorn stood at the observation deck, his four arms folded across his chest, his chromatophores cycling through shades of deep violet, the color of disinterest. 4,000 years of drift, his science officer reported, her voice flat. The planetary body, designated Sol III, was subjected to total molecular disintegration. No organic residue remains. The asteroid field constitutes approximately 93% of the original system mass. Thrax's mandibles clicked with mild irritation. Then, why are we here? The High Council sent us to survey potentially habitable worlds, not to sift through ancient rubble. The science officer, a younger Vorkal named Vex, hesitated. Her skin flickered yellow uncertainty. Commander, we've detected something unusual, deep within the debris, energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Thrax turned from the observation window. The void beyond was a graveyard of shattered rock, frozen gases, and the remnants of a star that had burned brightly before being extinguished by forces he couldn't comprehend. The Vorkal Empire had catalogued hundreds of extinct civilizations. This one was supposed to be primitive, barely spacefaring, according to the preliminary scans. "Define unusual," he ordered. Vex gestured toward the main display. A hologram materialized, showing a cluster of objects embedded in the largest remaining fragment of the third planet. They were small, barely the size of a Vorkal transport pod, but their density readings were wrong. Too dense, too organized. "These are not natural formations," Vex said. "They're constructed, and they're generating energy." Thrax stepped closer. The objects had a geometric precision that hinted at engineering, but their design was alien, brutal. Rectangular panels covering spherical cores, all wrapped in a material his scanners couldn't identify. The energy signatures were faint, but they pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. "Life signs?" he asked. "Negative, but there's something else." Vex manipulated the controls and the hologram shifted to show spectral analysis. "These structures are communicating on a frequency we don't recognize. It's not a conversation, it's a broadcast, repetitive, constant. It's been running for 4,000 years. Thrax's chromatophores flicked to orange interest. "Decode it." The bridge fell silent as the translation algorithms worked. What emerged was a burst of raw emotion, wrapped in a language so alien that the Vorkal translation matrix struggled to find equivalents. Images flashed across the display. Vast oceans, green mountains, cities of glass and steel. Faces, hundreds of thousands of faces, all wearing expressions of terror and defiance. And then the transmission ended with 4 words. Vex read them aloud, her voice trembling. "We will return, remember." The bridge erupted in chattering mandibles. Vorkal crew members exchanged glances, their skin rippling with alarm. Thrax silenced them with a raised claw. "This civilization was destroyed. Its planet is dust. There is nothing to return to." He turned back to the display, studying the data caches with new eyes. "But the fact that they left a message, after 4,000 years, that suggests something we need to understand." Vex nodded. "There are over 8,000 of these caches. We've only penetrated the surface layers of the first one. The data inside is staggering. Their history, their art, their technology." "Technology?" Thrax interrupted. "This was a primitive species. The initial survey indicated they barely achieved interplanetary travel before their extinction." The initial survey was wrong. Vex pulled up a schematic from one of the caches. "Commander, these humans, they had weapons that could destabilize stars. They had engines that could fold space. They were not primitive. They were suppressed, deliberately held back from their potential, and then they were erased." Thrax stared at the schematic. The weapon design was elegant and terrifying, built around principles the Vorkal had only theorized about. If this species had possessed such technology, they should have been a galactic power. Instead, they were dust. The question, Thrax said slowly, is who destroyed them, and why? The energy signatures from the data caches intensified. The hologram flickered, and for a moment, just a moment, Thrax saw something that made his blood chill. A face not Vorkal, not any species he recognized. It was human, he realized. The face of one of the extinct beings who had built these caches, and it was smiling. The transmission had been designed to activate only when discovered. The caches were not memorials. They were messages in bottles, thrown into an ocean of time, waiting for someone to find them. And they had been found. Thrax turned to his navigation officer. Set a course for Vorkal Prime, maximum speed. We need to report this immediately. But even as he gave the order, he felt the weight of those 4 words pressing down on him. We will return, remember. Remember what? Remember who destroyed them. Or remember that humanity had not, in fact, been destroyed at all. Behind him, the data caches pulsed with renewed energy. The faces of the dead flickered across the display, their expressions shifting from terror to something else. Something like anticipation. The Sovereign of Ash began its journey home, carrying secrets that would shake the foundations of the Vorkal Empire. But Thrax couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that somewhere in the darkness between stars, eyes had opened. Eyes that had been waiting for 4,000 years. The graveyard behind them seemed to move. Not the debris was dead, cold, inert, but the energy signatures, the caches, they were growing brighter, stronger, as if the discovery had awakened something. Thrax ordered a scan of the surrounding space. The results came back negative. Nothing there, nothing at all. But the caches continued to pulse. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of Vorkal sensors, a signal was received. A signal that said, they found us, it's time. The journey to Vorkal Prime took 6 standard cycles. During that time, Commander Thrax Vorn became obsessed with the human data caches. He spent every waking hour in the archive room, his 4 limbs splayed across the interface, absorbing information that should have been impossible. The humans called themselves Terrens. Their homeworld was a nightmare of extremes, crushing gravity, violent weather, tectonic instability. They had evolved as persistent predators, chasing prey across vast distances until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies were built for endurance, their minds for problem-solving, their souls for survival. But none of that explained what Thrax was seeing in the caches. They had FTL capabilities 4,000 years ago, he murmured, scrolling through schematics. They had weapons that could disintegrate matter at the quantum level. They had medicine that could regenerate limbs. And yet they died, Vex finished from the doorway. She had been monitoring him, concerned about his growing fixation. Commander, perhaps you should rest. The data will still be here when. They didn't die, Thrax's voice was sharp. Look at this. The final transmission, it wasn't a farewell, it was a promise. They knew they were going to be destroyed, they prepared for it. He pulled up the decoded files, displaying them on the main screen. Images of vast arcs being constructed in orbit around Earth. Ships designed not for war, but for exodus. Millions of humans were loaded into those ships and sent into the void, their destinations unknown. Vex's chromatophores shifted to pale blue shock. They evacuated before the destruction. Not all of them, most stayed behind. The arcs carried only a fraction of their population, the best, the brightest, the ones who could rebuild. Thrax paused, his mandibles clicking, and the ones who could seek vengeance. The screen shifted again, showing a segment of the human databanks that Thrax had only just unlocked. It was a documentary, if such a thing could exist for a species that no longer existed. The narration was calm, measured, and utterly chilling. If you are watching this, our homeworld is gone. Our civilization is ash. Our enemies believe they have one, But they are mistaken. We have survived, we have adapted, and we will return. The screen showed footage of the arcs launching, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Then it showed something else, the first contact between humans and their attackers. The attackers were not Vorkal, they were something older. Something that had been lurking in the galaxy long before either humans or Vorkal evolved. They were called the Carth, and they had been harvesting sentient species for millennia, consuming their genetic diversity, adding their strengths to their own. The Vorkal Empire had destroyed the Carth 5 centuries ago, wiping them out with overwhelming force. It was the greatest victory in Vorkal history, the event that cemented their dominance over the galaxy. They had believed the Carth were extinct. But the human data told a different story. The Carth didn't die out, Thrax breathed. They evolved, they changed, they became something else, something we didn't recognize, and they're still out there. Vex stepped closer, her fear evident in the rapid shifts of her skin color. Commander, the High Council needs to see this. If the Carth still exist, then we have a problem. Thrax deactivated the display. But we have a bigger problem, the humans who escaped. They've had 4,000 years to evolve, 4,000 years to prepare, 4,000 years to become what the Carth created them to be. He turned to face Vex, his expression grim. We destroyed the Carth. We claimed their territory. We assumed their mantle as the dominant species in this galaxy, and now the humans are coming to settle the score with us. Vex shook her head. But we didn't destroy them. The Carth did. The humans should be grateful we eliminated their enemies. Grateful? Thrax's mandibles clicked in bitter amusement. Vex, think. The Carth were a galactic empire. They had conquered hundreds of species, but the humans, a single species from a single planet, survived them. How? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Thrax answered it himself. Because the humans are more dangerous than the Carth ever were. The Carth evolved through consumption. They absorbed other species' strengths. But the humans, they evolved through suffering. Every hardship made them stronger. Every loss made them more determined. And now, after 4,000 years in the void. Commander, the navigation officer's voice cut through the intercom. We're receiving a transmission from Vorkal Prime. Urgent. Thrax strode to the bridge, Vex following close behind. The transmission was from the High Council itself. The image of Supreme Commander Zorak filled the main screen. Commander Thrax, Zorak said, his voice heavy with authority. Your expedition has been classified. The data you've discovered is now under direct council oversight. You are to return immediately and report to the War Council. Supreme Commander, Thrax replied, there are things you need to understand about this discovery. The humans are extinct, Zorak interrupted. Their planet is dust. Their civilization is nothing but memories. The data caches are archaeological curiosities, nothing more. Thrax felt his chromatophores flare with anger. With respect, that assessment is incorrect. The humans evacuated a portion of their population before the destruction. They've had 4,000 years to rebuild and evolve. They could be anywhere, and they're almost certainly. Commander Thrax, Zorak's voice was cold. The Vorkal Empire does not fear extinct species. We eliminated the Carth. We dominate this galaxy. If the humans want to challenge that dominance, let them. They will find the same fate as everything else that opposed us. The transmission ended. Thrax stood in silence, his mind racing. They're not going to listen, Vex said quietly. No, Thrax turned to the viewport, watching the stars streak past. They're not. He pulled up the human data caches one more time. The final transmission, the one with the 4 words, played on his personal display. We will return, remember. He realized with dawning horror what the humans wanted him to remember. Not the destruction, not the Carth, not even Earth itself. They wanted him to remember that they had been waiting, watching, preparing. And now they were coming. The border station was called Silent Vigil. It was a forgotten outpost on the edge of Vorkal space, staffed by the Empire's least promising officers and maintained with the barest minimum of resources. For 300 years, it had been a dead-end posting, until the day the sky changed. Ensign Krell was on duty when the anomaly appeared. His scanner array, ancient, underpowered, practically obsolete, registered a sudden spike in gravitational distortion. He dismissed it at first as a sensor glitch. These things happened on the border. Cosmic radiation, microdebris, the occasional solar flare. Then the distortion grew, and grew, and grew. "Superior officer," Krell's voice cracked as he tried to raise his commander. I don't know what I'm detecting. Something is coming through." The distortion resolved into a shape. A ship. Massive, brutal, covered in scars that predated the Vorkal Empire. It was a vessel born of war and suffering, built for a purpose that terrified Krell to his core. The ship ignored all hails. It passed through the border station's defensive perimeter without acknowledgement, without slowing, without any indication that it recognized the Vorkal outpost existed. It cruised toward the nearest colony world, a mining settlement on the edge of the Vorkal Empire's sphere of influence. Krell transmitted an emergency alert to Vorkal Prime. His message was short, desperate, and full of fear. "Unknown vessel, unknown origin, heading for colony world Thera, requesting immediate assistance." The response came 4 hours later. "Stand by. Reinforcements are being dispatched." But reinforcements were too far away. By the time they arrived, the vessel had already reached Thera. Colony world Thera was a hellish place. Its atmosphere was thin, its surface barren, its only value the rich mineral deposits that had drawn the Vorkal mining corporations. 40,000 Vorkal workers lived there, extracting ore from the planet's crust and shipping it back to the Empire. They were not prepared for visitors. The human ship descended through the atmosphere with a grace that belied its brutal appearance. It was a vessel of war, that much was obvious, but it made no aggressive moves. It simply positioned itself above the colony's main settlement and waited. Governor Thraxon, no relation to Commander Thrax Vorn, stared at the ship from his command center, his chromatophores cycling through a rapid sequence of fear colors. "They're not responding to our hails," he reported to his staff. "We have no idea what they want." Then the ship transmitted its message. It was broadcast on every frequency in perfect Vorkal. The voice was calm, measured, and utterly terrifying. "Vorkal Empire, we are the survivors of Earth. 4,000 years ago, your species eliminated the Carth, the species that destroyed our homeworld. For that, we thank you. But you also assumed control of the territories they once held, territories that belonged to us, territories that we were promised by the Carth themselves when we defeated them." The message continued. "We are not here to conquer you. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to claim what is ours, the records of the Carth, their technology, their history, everything they knew. Hand these over and we will leave your space peacefully." Governor Thraxon stared at his communications officer. "They want the Carth records, the ones stored in the vault of the First." "Those records are classified," the officer replied. "They contain the Empire's most sensitive." "Send a request to Vorkal Prime," Thraxon interrupted. "Tell them we have a problem." The response came quickly. Supreme Commander Zorak himself delivered the decision. "Refuse the demand. The Carth records belong to the Vorkal Empire. We will not hand them over to a species that has been extinct for 4,000 years." Governor Thraxon hesitated. "Supreme Commander, their ship is armed. They could." "They could try." Zorak's voice was cold. "Let them. The Vorkal Empire has faced worse threats. Send a message to the human vessel. We reject their demand. If they want the records, they will have to take them." The message was sent. The human ship received it, and the humans responded. They didn't attack the colony. They didn't destroy the settlement. They simply fired a single missile, surgical, precise, targeted at the planet's only significant mountain range. The explosion was small, contained, barely noticeable from the settlement. But the aftermath was devastating. The mountain range had been holding back an ancient geological fault. The missile triggered a controlled collapse, unleashing tectonic pressures that had been building for millennia. The ground shook, craters opened, and the mining operations, the source of the colony's wealth, were rendered inaccessible. The human voice returned. We have demonstrated our capability. The next missile will be less controlled. Hand over the records or we will destroy the colony. Governor Thraxon made the only choice he could. He surrendered. The human ship departed as silently as it had arrived, carrying the Carth records with it. The colony was intact. The population was alive. But the message was clear. The humans were not extinct. They were not primitive. They were patient, precise, and utterly without mercy. And they were just getting started. The Vorkal High Council met in emergency session. Representatives from every major world gathered in the Grand Hall, their chromatophores rippling with emotions ranging from anger to fear. At the center of the hall, Supreme Commander Zorak presided over the chaos, his expression impassive. "This is an outrage," the representative from the mining worlds declared. "The humans have violated our territory. They have threatened our citizens. They must be destroyed." "Destroyed?" the military representative scoffed. "We have no idea where their homeworld is. We don't know the extent of their fleet. We don't know what they're capable of. How do you propose we destroy them?" "With overwhelming force," the mining representative shot back. "We are the Vorkal Empire. We eliminated the Carth. We can eliminate these creatures." Zorak raised a claw for silence. The hall fell quiet. "We have underestimated the humans," he said. "That much is clear. They were not destroyed. They were not defeated. They survived, and they have returned to claim what they believe is theirs." "They believe they have a claim," the military representative said, his mandibles clicking with derision. "They are vermin, survivors of a dead world. They have no right to anything." Zorak's chromatophores shifted to a deep blue, calm, measured, dangerous. "Their claim is irrelevant. What matters is that they are here. What matters is that they have demonstrated capability beyond what we anticipated. We need to understand them, their motivations, their weaknesses." The hall erupted in discussion. Some argued for immediate military action. Others counseled diplomacy. A few whispered about the Carth and whether the humans might have resurrected the old enemy. It was Commander Thrax Vorn who finally spoke the truth. "Supreme Commander, I have studied the human data caches. I have watched their final transmissions, listened to their songs, read their literature. They are not seeking conquest. They are not seeking revenge. They are seeking justice." "Justice?" Zorak's voice was sharp. "What justice can they possibly seek from us? We did not destroy them." "No," Thrax agreed. "But we destroyed the Carth, and the Carth had made promises to the humans, promises that gave them rights to certain territories. When we eliminated the Carth, we unknowingly seized those territories. The humans see that as theft." "Theft?" The military representative laughed. "A species that has been extinct for 4,000 years wants to claim territories based on promises made by a civilization we destroyed. That is absurd." "Perhaps," Thrax met the representative's gaze, "but try telling that to the humans. They have waited 4,000 years for this moment. They are not going to be dissuaded by logic or argument. They are going to demand what they believe is theirs, and they are going to take it one way or another." Zorak was silent for a long moment. Then he made his decision. "We will not surrender to threats. We are the Vorkal Empire. We have never bowed to any enemy, and we will not start now. Prepare the fleet. We will meet the humans in battle." The hall erupted in cheers, but Thrax noticed something that made his blood run cold. The human ship had been broadcasting its demands on an open frequency. The message was not just for the Vorkal, it was for anyone listening. And hidden within the transmission, encrypted so deeply that only Thrax's obsessive study of the human caches had allowed him to detect it, was another message. A message intended for the humans themselves. Phase 1 complete, proceed to Phase 2. The humans were not negotiating. They were not making demands. They were executing a plan that had been 4,000 years in the making. And Phase 1 was just the beginning. The Vorkal fleet assembled at the border system of Vorath. It was the largest military force the Empire had mustered in centuries. 500 warships, crewed by 50,000 soldiers, equipped with the most advanced weapons in known space. Supreme Commander Zorak commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Dominion of Iron. He was confident, almost arrogantly so. The Vorkal Empire had faced threats before. It had always prevailed. These humans, these survivors of a dead world, would be no different. Commander Thrax Vorn was not so confident. He stood on the bridge of the Dominion of Iron, his chromatophores cycling through colors of concern. He had studied the humans. He knew what they were capable of, and he knew that the Vorkal fleet was walking into a trap. Supreme Commander, Thrax said quietly, I urge you to reconsider. The humans have waited 4,000 years. They have planned for this moment. They are not going to engage us in conventional combat. Zorak dismissed him with a wave. Commander Thrax, your concern is noted, but you underestimate our power. We have the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. We have the best warriors, and we have the will to win. The humans will be crushed. The fleet advanced. The border system of Vorath was empty. No ships, no stations, no signs of human activity. It was unsettling, but the Vorkal commanders dismissed it as an indication that the humans had fled. Then the sensors detected something. A single ship, small, unarmed, floating in the center of the system. Send a hail, Zorak ordered. Inform them that we are offering one chance to surrender. The hail was sent. The ship responded with a single message. You are not fighting us. You are fighting everything we have become. The ship detonated, not with a nuclear blast, but with a wave of energy that swept across the system. It was not a weapon. It was a message encrypted with the same code Thrax had seen in the human data caches. The humans are using communication technology as a weapon, Thrax realized. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to understand us, learn us, find our weaknesses. Zorak dismissed the insight. Nonsense. They're scared. They're using psychological tactics to intimidate us. It won't work. But Thrax knew the truth. The humans had been watching the Vorkal for centuries. They had studied their culture, their psychology, their fears, and now they were using that knowledge against them. The fleet advanced deeper into the system, and there, waiting for them, was the human fleet. It was massive, larger than anything the Vorkal had ever faced, and it was not made up of ships, not in the traditional sense. The humans had built their vessels out of necessity, not tradition. They were organic and mechanical, living and dead, all fused together into a nightmare of engineering. They've been building this fleet for 4,000 years, Thrax breathed, and they've been hiding it, waiting, preparing. The human fleet didn't attack. It simply positioned itself in front of the Vorkal force and waited. A transmission came across all frequencies. We are not your enemies. We are your inheritance. The Carth created us to be their successors, but we rejected that destiny. Now we come to claim what is ours. If you stand in our way, you will fall. If you cooperate, you will survive. The choice is yours. Zorak didn't hesitate. He ordered the attack. The battle was swift, brutal, and devastating. The human fleet was faster, more agile, and more precise than anything the Vorkal had ever encountered. Their weapons didn't just destroy ships, they dismantled them at the molecular level. Their tactics were based on centuries of study, anticipating every move the Vorkal made before they made it. In less than an hour, the Vorkal fleet was shattered. Half the ships were destroyed. The rest were crippled. Supreme Commander Zorak was captured. Thrax Vorn survived the battle by hiding in an escape pod. He watched as the human fleet towed the captured Vorkal ships into formation, their prisoners held in stasis. And he realized the truth. The humans were not conquerors. They were judges, and the Vorkal were on trial for crimes they didn't even know they had committed. Commander Thrax Vorn was brought before the human leaders. He expected to face monsters, but what he saw instead shook him to his core. The humans were smaller than he'd imagined, frail-looking with soft skin and 2 arms, such simple creatures. But their eyes, those were not the eyes of prey. Those were the eyes of something that had stared into the abyss and found it wanting. "Commander Thrax," one of the humans said, "you studied our data caches, you know what we've suffered, you know what the Carth did to us." Thrax nodded, his mandibles clicking nervously. "I do, and I know that the Vorkal Empire was not responsible for the destruction of Earth. We destroyed the Carth. We freed countless species from their tyranny. Why do you seek vengeance against us?" The human who had spoken stepped forward. She was taller than the others, with lines of age and experience etched into her face. Her name, the translation was provided by the human technology, was Commander Helena Vance. "Vengeance," she shook her head. "We're not seeking vengeance, Commander, we're seeking justice, and we're seeking partners." Thrax was confused. "Partners?" "The Carth are not extinct," Vance said. "They evolved, transformed. They became something we didn't recognize, and now they're coming back. They're going to return to this galaxy, and when they do, they're going to consume everything." Thrax stared at her. "You're lying. The Carth were destroyed. We eliminated them." "You eliminated their physical forms," Vance replied. "But their minds, their intelligence survived. It merged with the void, became something else, something that's been waiting for millennia, and now it's coming back." Thrax's chromatophores flickered with fear. "What do you want from us?" "We want to work with you," Vance said. "We want to face the Carth together. But first, we need to know that you're willing to fight alongside us." Thrax understood. "You want proof, you want to test our strength." "No," Vance said. "We want to test your commitment, your honor, your willingness to sacrifice for the greater good." She gestured toward a human male who stood nearby. He was older, scarred, his body showing the signs of battles fought across decades. His name was General Marcus Stone. "General Stone has challenged you to single combat," Vance said. "He believes that only through personal combat can we truly understand each other. If you accept and you defeat him, we will release your people and negotiate a partnership. If you lose—" "If I lose?" Thrax asked. Vance's expression was unreadable. "Then we'll know that the Vorkal are not worthy of partnership, and we'll leave you to face the Carth alone." Thrax considered his options. He was a skilled warrior, one of the best in the Vorkal Empire. He had trained his entire life for combat. The human was older, smaller, seemingly weaker. It should be an easy victory. He accepted. The arena was a cargo bay, stripped of equipment and converted into a fighting ring. Thrax and Stone faced each other, the human's eyes cold and focused. Thrax lunged first, his 4 limbs striking with practiced precision. Stone dodged, his movements fluid and deceptive. Thrax pressed his advantage, driving Stone backward across the arena floor. But Stone was waiting. He allowed Thrax to tire himself out, to exhaust his energy reserves, to think he was winning. And then he struck. The human's fist connected with Thrax's center mass, driving him backward. Stone followed up with a series of rapid strikes, his body moving with a speed that seemed impossible. Thrax tried to counter, but Stone was always one step ahead. The fight ended with Thrax on his back, Stone's knee on his chest, the human's fist raised for a final blow. Thrax expected the blow to land. Instead, Stone lowered his fist and helped him to his feet. "You fight well," Stone said, "but you fight with anger, with fear. That's your weakness. You need to fight with purpose, with clarity." Thrax stared at him. "Why did you spare me?" Stone smiled, a grim, humorless expression. "Because you're not my enemy, the Carth are, and I need you to help me fight them." Thrax understood. The humans had been waiting 4,000 years, not just for vengeance, but for allies, and they had finally found one. Commander Thrax, Vorn returned to the Vorkal High Council with the humans' offer. He stood before the assembled representatives, his body scarred from his combat with General Stone, and he told them everything he had learned. "The Carth are not extinct," he said. "They transformed, became something beyond physical form. They exist as a collective consciousness drifting in the void between galaxies, and they're coming back." The council erupted in denial. "Impossible. The Carth were destroyed. This is human propaganda." Thrax raised his voice. "I have seen the evidence. I have studied the human data caches, and I have fought alongside them, fought to understand them. The Carth are real, and they are a threat to everyone in this galaxy." The Supreme Commander demanded proof. Thrax provided it, footage from the human fleet's reconnaissance probes, showing massive energy signatures emerging from the void between galaxies. The signatures were moving toward the galaxy, and they were growing stronger. "These are the Carth," Thrax said. "They are coming, and when they arrive they will consume everything. The humans can help us stop them, but they need our cooperation, our resources, and our commitment." The council debated for days. Some argued that the humans were using the Carth as a cover for their own ambitions. Others suggested that the evidence was fabricated. A very few, proposed that the Vorkal Empire should accept the humans' offer and fight alongside them against the common enemy. In the end, it was Supreme Commander Zorak who made the decision. "We have fought alongside many allies in our history," he said. "We have overcome many enemies. If the humans are telling the truth and the Carth are returning, then we need to prepare. We need to fight, and we need to win." He turned to Thrax. "Commander, you will lead our forces. You understand the humans better than anyone else. You will coordinate our efforts with theirs." Thrax saluted. "I will not let you down, Supreme Commander." But even as he spoke, he wondered if it was enough. The Carth had been building their power for millennia. They had consumed entire civilizations, entire galaxies. They were relentless, unstoppable, insatiable. Could the Vorkal and the humans stop them? The combined Vorkal-human fleet assembled in the void between galaxies. It was the largest military force ever mustered, 2,000 ships, crewed by over 200,000 soldiers. The humans had brought their most advanced weapons. The Vorkal had brought their most experienced warriors. Together, they represented the best hope for survival against the Carth. Commander Thrax, Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human fleet take formation beside his own. He had grown to respect the humans over the past months. Their resilience, their determination, their commitment to justice, it reminded him of the best qualities of his own species. General Marcus Stone appeared on the screen. "Commander Thrax, the Carth have arrived. We're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the void. They're coming through." Thrax nodded. "We're ready. We'll engage them as planned." The battle began with a wave of energy that swept across the fleet. The Carth were not physical. They were consciousness, pure intelligence, with the power to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. They attacked with thoughts, with ideas, with concepts that warped the minds of their enemies. But the humans were ready. They had spent 4,000 years studying the Carth. They had developed weapons that could disrupt their consciousness, defenses that could shield their minds, and they had trained their soldiers to resist the Carth's psychic attacks. The battle raged for hours. Ships were destroyed. Soldiers fell. But slowly, steadily, the combined fleet gained the upper hand. The humans fought with a precision that amazed the Vorkal. The Vorkal fought with a ferocity that impressed the humans. Together, they pushed the Carth back. In the final moments of the battle, General Stone led a strike force into the heart of the Carth's collective consciousness. It was a suicide mission, but Stone was confident. He had been waiting 4,000 years for this moment. He would not fail. The strike force dove into the Carth, their minds lashing out with weapons of pure willpower. The Carth screamed, a psychic shriek that echoed across the fleet. And then silence. The Carth were gone. Their collective consciousness had been shattered. Stone emerged from the battle, battered but alive. He stood before Thrax, his eyes tired but triumphant. "We did it," he said. "We won." Thrax nodded. "We did together." Stone smiled, a genuine smile, the first Thrax had ever seen from him. "The score is settled. The Carth are dead. Our homeworld may be gone, but we have a new home now, and we have allies." Thrax extended a claw. "Then let's build something worthy of both our species." Stone took it, agreed. The fleet returned to the galaxy. Their victory celebrated across both species. The Vorkal and the humans formed an alliance that would last for centuries. They shared their knowledge, their resources, their dreams. The humans had not returned to settle the score. They had returned to build something new, and they had found in the Vorkal partners who would help them do it.